I transmigrated as a female supporting character in an erotic novel. 1 second ago, the male lead was still having fun with me on the bed. In the next second, he withdrew and left to pick up his first love returning from abroad. I, as a substitute, was gloriously laid off. But I didn't idle around. I turned around and hooked up with his younger brother. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Mason Wise's hand, who was fastening his belt, paused as he looked at me and lowered his gaze. I stretched my slender leg and slowly rubbed it against his knee through his pants. Just as the author described, Mason Wise has broad shoulders and a narrow waist, without an ounce of excess fat. If I let him go like this, wouldn't I be at a loss? Mason, one more time, okay? I raised my face, struck what I thought was a coquettish pose, and my voice had a hoarseness that I deemed to be alluring. His eyes darkened, and he quickly unfastened the belt he had just tied and leaned over me. Looking at a face that resembled his first love so much, Mason couldn't possibly refuse the passionate request. I didn't know how much time had passed, but I only heard his phone ringing repeatedly by my pillow. Only when Mason finally let go of my already almost broken waist did I collapse on the bed, unable to utter a word. I could only slightly open my lips, like a fish out of water. I reached out and pulled up a thin blanket, barely covering my body. I don't know when Mason had already dressed and was making a phone call. Chris, sorry for the late. I was just busy with something. I'll come pick you up now. Just wait for me at the airport. His voice was so gentle that it could squeeze out water. It seemed like he was not a person in his 20s. He was completely different from the Mason Wise who had just been speaking vulgar words on the bed. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, and then I felt sorry for the original supporting character in the novel. She had always deeply loved the male lead and willingly became his plaything for venting desires. Until she saw the tenderness and affection the male lead showed towards his first love, she became jealous to the point of losing her mind. In the end, the male lead sent her abroad and she could never return again in her lifetime. I wrapped myself in the blanket and got up to go to the bathroom. Looking at myself in the mirror, I touched the kiss mark on my neck and couldn't help but be amazed. Why should someone who looks so good end up as cannon fodder? Where is the justice in this? I decided to take a shower and heard the sound of the door closing. Mason Wise left in a hurry without even saying goodbye. Since his first love had returned to the country, why would he think of me, a substitute? After being dismissed in the original plot of the book, the female supporting character couldn't let go and followed the male lead to the airport. Only after seeing the female lead did she realize that she was just a substitute, a clown. I'm not sad though. After all, I came here through transmigration. Being able to make love with a handsome guy, I have no regrets about this journey. Feeling relaxed after a bath, I put on my clothes. Then, thoughtfully, I packed up all the clothes and bags that Mason had bought for me and called a car to pick me up. Looking at this bedroom that seemed to have no trace of any woman, I couldn't help but give myself the Best Body Double award. I wonder if Mason will be moved to give me another few $1 million when he sees it. I had the driver take me to the apartment Mason bought for me. I slowly moved all the boxes of stuff inside. The apartment was not small, but clean and exquisite. I have to say, Mason Wise is quite generous to a substitute. It made me suddenly feel a bit reluctant. I only need to be his first love substitute. Every day, I wake up to a stunning face, and he takes care of my food and lodging. Where else could I find such a good job? I sighed and silently packed my things. Who made me not be his first love? The wardrobe was filled with clothes. And as I looked at the full closet of clothes and bags, I was a little lost in thought. The book said that I resembled Mason's first love about 70 to 80%. Especially our eyes, even the curve when we smile is exactly the same. So Mason often spent money to make me smile. He would touch the face of the female supporting character, almost obsessed. Chris, give me a smile, and I'll buy you this bag, okay? What a scumbag. He touched the face of the female supporting character but called the nickname of the female lead. Could he be schizophrenia? But thinking back like this, it's understandable why the female supporting character had such a breakdown in the end. Falling from heaven to the abyss, no one could accept it. My absent-mindedness was quickly drawn to various pieces of jewelry. Unable to resist the excitement, I decided to try on the clothes one by one. As I looked at myself in the full-length mirror, I took a deep breath. A black satin strap dress tightly wrapped around my upper body, with a full chest and a wonderful curve squeezed out at the waist. And the skirt below the hips swayed like a nimble fishtail. Such a beauty is just a substitute. How ethereal his first love must be. After trying on several pieces of jewelry, I decided to go out and have some fun. Otherwise, if no one sees them, what's the point of these luxury goods? I couldn't think of any interesting places to go. Suddenly I remembered the places Mason often took the female supporting character to in the book. I hailed a taxi and went there. Green Bar. A high-end lounge. There is no deafening music, only an extremely comfortable atmosphere. Besides the comfortable environment here, there was another reason why I came here. That is, Mason Wise is a member here. Although I have cut off ties with him, it shouldn't be a problem to come and enjoy myself a bit. Right? I gestured to the waiter that it's just me, and he led me to a sofa seat in the corner. I'm not good at drinking, but inexplicably, I wanted to give it a try today. I ordered a drink with an incomprehensible name. And while I was waiting, I could clearly feel various gazes projected towards me. I raised my chin confidently, taking it all in stride. With such good looks, it would be nothing for me to become a film and television star. In the past, Mason never let the female supporting character drink when she came with him, but today I insisted on tasting it. I carefully took a sip, but the stimulating alcohol still choked me. While I was coughing, a hand reached out from beside me and handed me a tissue. I took it and wiped the wine stains off my mouth. Thank you. You are welcome. His voice was clear and cold, yet somewhat alluring. Unconsciously, I looked over and was slightly stunned. The face in front of me was truly exquisite. Deep-set eyes, a straight nose, and tightly pursed lips. I felt a sense of joy in my heart. It seems like going out today was the right decision, as I've encountered a handsome guy, haven't I? I brushed away the hair that fell in front of my chest and leaned in a little closer. Are you here alone too? The handsome guy glanced at my face and answered with a non sequitur. You seem a bit drunk. I touched my cheek and realized it was a little flushed. No wonder Mason didn't let me drink. Apparently, my alcohol tolerance has deteriorated to this point. Before the intoxication completely took over, something deep inside me told me that I couldn't just let this handsome guy go. I deliberately squinted my eyes and swayed my head, leaning into the handsome guy's arms, and mumbled. Hey handsome, what's your name? Yuri Drunk. Do you need me to contact your friends? The handsome guy replied with another non sequitur. Handsome, I'm Sybil Minter. I reached out to play with his tie and pressed my lips against his neck. He visibly stiffened, and his breathing became slightly erratic. I couldn't help but chuckle. It seems he's a pure-hearted, handsome guy. I'm feeling hot. Can I kiss you? I extended my index finger and boldly caressed his cold lips. Unexplainably, a desire to conquer rose within me. He cleared his throat, and before he could say anything, I lifted my head and kissed him. I don't know how to kiss, even the time with Mason was just him being rough and rude. I sucked on his lips, without any technique. After a few seconds of daze, he invaded my mouth with his tongue, exploring every inch and tugging at my heartstrings. He was skilled at kissing, and when he cradled my face, I almost thought I was his treasure. I grabbed his wrist, wanting to go further, but just as I did, a familiar voice sounded in my ear. Caden Wise, unlike his older brother who was domineering and tyrannical, was instead cool and aloof with a hint of tenderness. But before I could carefully discern it, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. Perhaps the few sips of strong liquor earlier made me dizzy. I greeted them and went to the restroom. I cupped my hands to catch some cold water and splashed it on my face, barely relieving the discomfort. I looked up at the mirror. I didn't put on any makeup when I went out today, just a little lipstick. Now even the lipstick was gone, leaving my face pale. I used a tissue to wipe off the water stains on my face and left the restroom. A big hand wrapped around my waist. Before I could scream, I was already pulled into someone's embrace. It was Mason Wise. What do you want to do? I asked aloud, but the rest of my words were blocked by his mouth. Mason Wise passionately kissed my lips, his tongue exploring, but I clenched my teeth tightly. He pinched my waist, and I cried out in surprise. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he entangled his tongue with mine. I twisted my waist to resist, but he bit my tongue in dissatisfaction, filling my mouth with the taste of blood. Perhaps because I stopped resisting, his actions gradually became gentle. I didn't know how long it lasted, but he let go of me, his nose touching mine. "Kristen Stabler has already come back, you don't have to do this." I felt helpless. "Why didn't you put on makeup today?" He used his thumb to touch my lips. "I didn't feel like it. You and her, originally, don't look very alike." Mason muttered, but I couldn't quite hear it clearly. Before I could ask, his tone suddenly turned fierce. "Sybil Minter, when did I allow you to move everything out?" Mason opened his eyes, still filled with anger. "I'm just a substitute. Now that your true love is back, I should be out of a job, right?" For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. After a long silence, he spoke. "So, you threw yourself into my little brother's arms? How was I supposed to know that was your brother? And what do you mean by that? I broke up with you, and you don't allow me to find another man?" I suddenly couldn't hold back my anger. Who does Mason Wise think he is, dictating who I can be with? Mason didn't expect me to talk back, and for a moment, he was stunned. But before he could react and get angry, Kristen's voice came from nearby. "Mason, where did you go?" He finally let go of me and turned to leave. I shrugged in place. It seems that Mason still has some attachment to Sybil Minter. But this attachment is worthless. With just a few words from Kristen Stabler, he immediately turns around and leaves. I straightened out the clothes that Mason had messed up. Just as I was walking back, I happened to run into Caden, who was looking for me. He still had my bag in his hand. "Let's go, I'll take you home." "But what about your brother?" "If you're not feeling well, go home and rest." "Okay." Someone was offering to take me home, why wouldn't I agree? I followed behind Caden, a tall guy over 6 feet, carrying a delicate little bag in his hand, which looked quite funny. Caden is completely different from his brother. If it were Mason, he would never help me carry the bag. He would only say, "It's just a bag, we can buy another one if it's lost." As we walked out, it started to get a bit chilly. I couldn't help but shiver. Caden suddenly stopped and took off his suit jacket, draping it over me. A warm feeling spread through my heart. Although Caden is not talkative, he still chatted with me along the way. Although it was just casual conversation and he never asked about me and Mason. He escorted me to the entrance of the apartment building without any intention of coming in, and I also didn't have any intention of inviting him. "Take good rest and don't drink anymore." It wasn't a command, but concern. I nodded and bid him good night.